The back feet are actually quite slender, but if you look at them, there's a tight band going down the back, a tight band going down the back of the back leg. That is a tendon. It works as a spring. When the kangaroo comes down out of the air, it stretches the springs in its legs like this, and then as they go forward, it slams those springs shut and flings the kangaroo forward. So it is jumping forward by the force of springs, not by the strength of muscles. When they're walking, it is muscular strength. When they're jumping, it's the force of the springs. The kangaroos, though, are moving machines. They can move 15 and 20 miles per day in the desert. For a human, I can tell you when I hiked the Appalachian Trail with four of my sons, and we were trying to cover 12 and 14 miles a day, we were having to pound 5,000 calories per day each. So given that a kangaroo can be bigger than a man, and they're going to be covering 15 and 20 miles a day, you might suppose that they would need as many calories as a man does, but they don't. For a human, walking is effort of one. Jogging is 3 to 4 times the effort and 3 to 4 times the calorie consumption of walking. Running is as much as 20 times. If you're Usain Bolt, 100-meter dash, running is as much as 20 times the effort of walking and 20 times the calorie output of walking. Kangaroos, not so. When a kangaroo is walking, that is effort of one. That is pentaped, front, back, tail, front, back, tail. When they're jumping, that's what puts those big old springs into motion. That is where the magic happens. So when they are jumping at low speed, that is also effort of one. At 45 miles an hour, they are only expending about 2 to 3 times the calories of just walking. That is how a kangaroo can cover 15 and 20 miles per day in the desert on a calorie budget of only 5 or 600. So crazy, crazy animals. The kangaroos have some really unusual teeth. Their front teeth are like rodent teeth. They grow throughout their life, and they're always looking wear them down, chewing on stuff. Their side and back teeth, though, they move along the jaw forward as they wear down. When they get to the front, they fall out, and new ones grow in the wisdom tooth position, and then they walk along the jaw again. No limit to how many teeth a kangaroo can get in its life. The male kangaroos, in the wild, they're lucky to make 5 years. The normal family group of kangaroos is one male, 50 females. So if you want to be the one male, 40 of it's got to go, and that is the way that they roll. So in the wild, lucky to make 5 years. In captivity, though, we don't hunt them, shoot them, run them down with pickup trucks, hoist them, chase them off cliffs, and let them kill each other. So in captivity, a male kangaroo can live 20 years, and they never stop growing. They are like a tortoise. If they are alive, they are growing. And so in captivity, the world record for a red kangaroo is 6'7" standing on the ground, 8.5 feet nose to tail. We do have both the genetics and the intent to grow record-size kangaroos here. The father of our father kangaroo right there, on the day that he was born, his father was 8 years old. He was 6'2" and 225. Don't know what happened to that one. The father of all our female kangaroos that are out here just passed it, jumping into a fence and breaking a leg. He was 10 years old. He was 6'4" and 250. Either of those two lived to their full 20-year potential, they easily would exceed the world record. So we do have both the genetics and the intent on both the male and the female side to grow record-sized kangaroos here. That he wasn't that big, I don't think. I know when we bought the kangaroo how big he was. No, these were all Tiny ones inside, and 2 even tiny ones outside.
How it smells, so don't ask.
There's nothing usual about a kangaroo.
Yeah, I was able to pet inside.
I got it, John. Almost forgot about you, Neelan.
One of my camels was like looking like a country girl, but totally a city girl. I want to be a city girl.
Until the afternoon. And say this afternoon, like if you guys had not booked to have an encounter with him, I still would have sat here and held him for at least 30 minutes to keep him on that schedule.
What a terrible job.
Yeah. And so we try to keep them to that schedule because that's what they thrive off of. Sloths are very routine animals, and they like to do the same thing at the same time, in the same way every day. And that's what they, that's what keeps
All
them
of our
happy.
kangaroos have come
So
by
we try
pair.
to stick to that. Even on Sundays when we don't have any encounters or anything, we still have people that come in, or the workers that will come in and hold them for a certain amount of time. Yeah.
What's your job? That might have been on my
Are there any
list.
openings? Oh my gosh, that would be like my dream. I'm getting ready to retire. So do you have to have some kind of special?
So I have a degree in animal science, a bachelor's degree in animal science, and my end goal is to become a veterinarian. And so before I started working here, I had a lot of hours of experience with just animals in general, large animal and small animal, and a good amount of exotics, but none really with sloths. And so a lot of the training that I had was on the job training, and to get to the point where we're at now. But,
That's what I want to do. I have to have, about to buy those tortoises.
yeah.
We have a farm, so we have 5 miniature donkeys and 2 miniature horses, a pony, and 2 baby goats,
Yeah.
2 dogs and a cat, and 2 chickens. I just got 2 there, 2
Yeah.
And look at this big one. Do you see Taylor there? Huh? Oh, I mean, that would be like, you think I'd love to just hold babies all day, but
Wouldn't get much done. A lot of people are surprised by how soft they are too, because in the wild, a lot of people have seen wild sloths if they've gone to Costa Rica or something like that, or just seen pictures on the internet of wild sloths. And they've got all that moss and algae and that greenery there on their back, and they use that for camouflage. And their hair will be a lot more coarse because it kind of breaks off on the end, and that's what allows for all that algae to grow there on them. And it's really important for a wild sloth to have that, because not only is it camouflage to try to blend them into the rest of the trees where they stay the majority of the time, but it's also a food source for a very specific type of moth that will live on the back of a wild sloth. And there's like 50 to 100 moths living on one sloth at a time. And so yeah, thankfully not here, as you can see, he doesn't have any bugs crawling throughout him. But in the wild, it's really important for them to have that, because the way that a sloth will digest their food is actually through a bacterial process. It's not an enzymatic process like we do. And we're born with those enzymes, but the sloths are not born with that bacteria. And so they get just the first little bit of that bacteria from their mothers. Around day 3 is when the baby sloth starts to be interested in solid food. And so as the mother is eating, the baby will crawl up a little bit higher and start to eat some of the food out of her mouth while she's eating those leaves. They'll tear a little bit off and eat some of that. And they'll lick up some of the saliva that starts to form in the corners of her mouth. And so the bacteria that she has in her gut is also in her saliva, and that will be kind of transferred over into the baby. And then all of the moths that are living on the mother's back in the wild will then kind of transfer over onto the baby too, because they'll be laying right on the mother's chest, and that's how they'll stay. And so they kind of get a little bit of that transferred over onto them. But those moths are really important for, oh, those are going to be some good pictures right there, for the digestive system of a sloth. Because like I said, they use that bacterial process. And where they get that bacteria after it comes from their mother is from those moths. And so they'll produce that bacteria in their waste. And, you know, bacteria, as we know, is really sensitive to cold temperatures. Bacteria can't live in a cold environment. The temperature is always fluctuating in the rainforest. Overnight, it can drop in temperatures as low as 60, 65 degrees. And that's no bueno for a sloth's digestive system because that bacteria can be wiped out. And so that's why those wild sloths need all of those moths on their back, because if that bacteria is wiped out from their gut, they need to be able to lick up more of that bacteria from the waste product of those moths to start to be able to digest their food again. Now in captivity, you can see he doesn't have any moths on his back. That's because he doesn't need it, because we never allow them to get cold. It's always 78 to 79 degrees in their enclosures. And we only let them go outside when it's above 75. And so we never have to worry about that bacteria deteriorating because we always monitor their environment. But for a wild sloth, that is their way of life. And if for whatever reason, like if somebody went out and plucked a sloth out of a tree and held it and pet it and handled it and, you know, messed up that entire ecosystem that is living on their back, those moths could be like, this is not a hospitable environment for me to live in anymore, I am leaving. And if they leave that sloth, it leaves it, you know, it'll essentially be 2.5 weeks before that sloth will starve, even with a full belly of food. But if they don't have that bacteria, if the temperature drops, you know, they won't be able to digest any of it. And so that was a real battle that we were facing with the wild sloths down in Costa Rica and Honduras and places like that, where people will go down there and try to have a sloth encounter like this and hold one of the sloths. And, you know, when I tell that kind of analogy between holding a house cat and a feral cat with a wild sloth like that, some people are surprised because they're like, well, move your arm away if he starts to look for food. Sometimes, since their eyesight is so poor, I'll hand you this dish and see if he wants to eat anything. Sometimes when he starts to look like that, he's like, is that food for me? And then he goes to open his mouth up and it's our arm. Since they can't really see, they can't tell the difference between that.
Unless I wouldn't sling you or anything.
But up until just recently, I mean within the past few months, sloth encounters down in Rotan, Honduras, those were with wild sloth. And some people tell me, well, I had a sloth and it just kind of, it put it onto my chest and it just stayed there. Of course, I didn't hold it for like 30 seconds, but it just kind of lay there, didn't do much. And that's actually because those sloths are used repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over again, going through like an entire cruise ship that has come to do sloth encounters. And they just have used up all of their energy that they can't even do anything. They can't even fight back.
So sad.
Yeah. And beforehand, you know, nobody wants to hold a sloth that has all that mossy green algae on it, as well as bugs living all over it. So they will wash it before they do sloth encounters, like I've already mentioned. Exactly. Yeah. And so the life expectancy of a sloth that has gone through a sloth encounter down at a place like that is roughly 2.5 weeks. And so, yeah, a lot of people are unaware of that. Because obviously if they knew the kind of practices that went on with those animals before the encounters happened, they would not be supporting it. They would not be giving those people their money. And myself included, you know, I tend to kind of just see the good in people. I don't always realize that not everybody out there is looking out for the well-being of animals. Some people are just in it for the money. And, you know, unfortunately, if somebody kind of has that mindset, they just go out there and even if they've not booked for a sloth encounter, they get off the cruise ship and somebody on the side of the road is like, hey, you want to hold a sloth for 20 bucks? They're like, yeah, of course I want to hold a sloth. You know, they don't put too much thought behind it. But thankfully, recently the Conservancy Agency has shut down a lot of facilities like that and have enforced more rules and regulations against handling wild sloths and shut down a lot of the quote-unquote sanctuaries that are down there that are not actually sanctuaries. They've just gone out and gotten those sloths and put them in, you know, a little netted environment where they have to stay right there.
That's so sad. People
Yeah.
just aren't aware. Now we, in Melbourne, Florida, went with the tortoises. They're what are all those loggerhead turtles where they come up and lay their eggs, and you're not supposed to touch, you know.
Yeah,
you want
the
to
eggs.
pet, you know, but, and they're exhausted, but we get up every morning for sunrise and go watch them.
Yeah.
But never pet them because you don't want anything to happen to them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He is knocked out. He says, I woke up briefly from my nap and I'm
I'm glad
Another nap sounds good.
that you're relaxed.
So everything about a sloth is slow in ways that people would not even realize that a sloth could be slow or any animal could be slow. So it actually will take their digestive system 30 days to digest everything in it from start to finish. So the first bite of food that he took today, it's going to be another 30 days before it comes out the other end. Yeah.
Just reading stuff on.
And the sloths, they don't have the ability to vomit, and so they can be completely turned upside down eating food, still swallow that food and not have any of it come back out, which is good in that sense. But if they eat something that doesn't sit right with them, or if they eat too much, they're stuck with that for another 30 days until it comes out the other end. Yeah. And because everything is digested through so slowly, they only go to the bathroom once a week, about every 7 to 10 days. And so when they do go to the bathroom, they don't ever, not even once in their entire lifetime, will they go to the bathroom up in the tops of the trees. They always will go down to the floor, hold on to the same tree at the same side of the tree every single time to go to the bathroom. And that's because of the symbiotic relationship that they will have with those moths that are living on their back, because they need somewhere to repopulate. And the sloth moth cannot fly like other moths can. They require direct contact with the surface that they're trying to get to. So they have to go all the way to the floor, and when they go to the bathroom, they'll kind of wiggle their little booties back and forth while they're holding onto the tree, and that signifies all those moths to crawl down off of them, lay their eggs in just a minute or two, because it doesn't take very long for a sloth to go to the bathroom. That's about the only thing that they do quickly, because that's when they're most exposed, when they're down there on the floor to other animals. And then those moths will crawl back up before they lose their ride back to the canopy of the rainforest. And then a week later, when they get the urge to go to the bathroom again, even if they're in a couple trees over, they will go back to that same tree every single time, because they have to go to the same pile. In that pile are last week's eggs that were laid, that are now this week's larva, and this week's larva will be next week's moths. And so that cycle is always going around and around, so that the sloth will always have those moths on their back.
It's a wonder there's any left.
Yeah. And yeah, and it doesn't make sense for sloths at all even to be alive, because they have essentially no defense mechanism, and they have to have that, consistent place to go to the bathroom every time. And if somebody went through, picked up a sloth and transported it, over somewhere else and put it in a tree, if it's about time for them to go to the bathroom, that's going to be pretty rough for them to, get back to that spot they have to go to. And so that's why all of the websites that you look up facts about sloths are like, sloths don't want to be held, don't touch sloths, don't handle sloths. And we get a lot of people that are on our lives that will see that we're holding a sloth, and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought you weren't supposed to hold sloths. They're not, they've got bacteria, they've got fungus. They don't like being held. They're antisocial animals, which all are true about wild sloths. Dash is an ambassador sloth, and so he was conditioned to enjoy it. And none of the sloths that are born and raised in captivity will have those moths or anything like that on their backs. So they live completely different lives in captivity than they would in the wild. And obviously they're not going to be exposed to rice and sweet potatoes and dog food when they're in the wild, which is what's in that bowl right there. So.
Now, do you switch off for her to hold?
Yes, it's been right at about 15 minutes. So if you guys wanted to switch now, we can. And so he's just going to climb up onto my arm, and then I'll have you guys switch out chairs.
Hey, bud. You ready? You still waking up? Come on, buddy.
Oh my goodness. I'll let you sit in this comfortable chair.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier in that chair to kind of slouch backwards.
So he can be all relaxed.
So she got to hear this spiel first when you were in the bathroom, but when we're petting them, just be sure and do real nice slow pets with an open hand. They don't really like the cat scritches like another animal might like, and they don't like the hair to move the opposite way. So just go with the grain of the hair real slow like that. So he's going to open up and wrap around your waist first, and put one hand underneath his booty, and the other you can put on his back there. Just scoot right on in here.
Is that not the best feeling ever?
And when he was little, when he transitioned over from holding on to a stuffed animal to then holding on to us, he'd actually hook his little claws right onto your bra strap and hold on to you just like that. And now that he's gotten bigger, his arms are longer, and he has to wrap all the way around you.
You're so daddy is so soft.
And a lot of people are surprised to know that the sloths are actually the cleanest animal that we have on the entire farm. Wild sloths, a lot of people think that they'd be dirty and stinky because of that moss and algae that they have growing on them. But even wild sloths are relatively, they don't smell like anything. They don't have any natural scent glands, musk glands, or odor glands. And so they, just smell just like the rest of the rainforest in the wild. And then in captivity here, they don't wallow around on the ground in the dirt and the grass and stuff like all of our other animals do. And so they just smell like they're enclosures, which, sometimes you can pick up just a little bit of a tinge of something on them, and that's because when they go to the bathroom, it's been sitting in them for at least 7 days, and so it's pretty putrid when it comes out, and they usually go to the bathroom at night, like right after all of the lights go out, so then they're stuck in their enclosure with that in the floor for a few hours until we come in the morning to clean it up. And so it's not like they wallow around in it or anything, because right after they go to the bathroom, they go back to the tippy top of their enclosures. But it's still, I can tell just while walking into the door right there, somebody has gone to the bathroom before even seeing the evidence of it, because it's pretty strong.
Really?
Yeah.
So they don't, you keep them all separated?
Mm-hmm. For now, because like I said, they're very solitary animals, and for a lot of other animals, there can be like a group, a name for a group of animals, like a flock or a herd or a gander or something like that. There's no name like that for a group of sloths because they just don't exist naturally in the wild. Now, some places that will slowly have, acclimated the sloths to be used to being together, like the breeder that we got Dash and Zoe and Chloe from, the ambassador program that Dash came from, there's a lot of other sloths in that enclosure, and they do well together as long as they have enough space to be away from each other. They're definitely not going to be snuggled up right next to each other like a cat would. They're going to have their own little hangout spots in the enclosure where there's little hammocks set up that they've all kind of designated as their own. And so eventually, Dash and Zoe and Chloe will all three be together. I think our next bigger project is to actually build a sloth house where it's just one giant big enclosure for them to all have kind of their own separate little hangout spots. So that's still kind of in the making and planning for that. And then Flash, our oldest sloth, he's 7 years old, and he will always be by himself because he was raised much more like a traditional sloth. He was still born and raised in captivity around people, but has never been held, and so he was not raised to be an ambassador sloth. And so we've never held Flash. Flash will never be held unless he's the one to climb onto us, and he's completely fine with that, and so are we, as long as he's happy. So there's been opportunities where he's kind of come down and kind of put himself into a weird position where it's like, I've never seen you there before, how are you going to get out of that, bud? So we walk over and we're like, you can come on in case if you need any help, like I'm right here. And you can always tell he kind of thinks about it for a little bit longer and like maybe starts to reach out and then it's like, nah, I'll figure it out myself.
Be alright.
And so, yeah.
Oh, they're so precious. What was it? Kristen Bell got a sloth, didn't she?
I don't think she
She
actually
didn't
got
get
one. Yeah, but she had like somebody.
just said-
Yeah, they had paid for somebody to come and set up a
Oh,
little.
the stage.
Yeah.
We just like,
There's one that's on Instagram, and there's a baby out on the interstate. And this
Oh.
guy's scared to get it, but he just puts his arms out like that, so he picks him up and takes him over to the mama, and the mama just takes him.
Yeah.
And then she like sort of reaches out to the guy like,
Oh, I've heard people mention that one before.
oh,
Yeah.
but it's so
Like she's thanking him or something.
yes. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
She could be wearing clothes. I don't
Yeah.
know. They're
Slow-
just, they're
slow
so
attack
slow.
mode.
attack mode.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just love that they snuggle with you.
And that's why we're so big on education too about these guys. Like we do so many live streams, and there's a lot of people that watch our live streams that are never going to be able to actually come and do the encounters, but they still get a lot of information about them. Because that's really where our passion lies. Because what started up, us being interested in sloths, was that John and Donna they went to Roatan, Honduras, and they had a sloth encounter, one of the ones that I was talking about a little bit ago, and they had no idea at the time about, the horrible things that go on with those animals, and it wasn't until about a year later that they realized that the sloth's life expectancy is dramatically decreased. And so, of course, they were heartbroken when they figured that out and started doing more research into sloths and everything, and so after we've gotten all of our sloths, that has always been, at the top of our priority list is with our interactions, we always want them to be educational. Because, before I knew anything about sloths at all, I had saw a similar video to that of this adult sloth that was trying to pass the roadway. And so this guy got out and got like a little stick for him to climb onto and brought him over to the other side of the road. And on that sloth it was green, it had all that moss and algae growing on it, and all of those bugs, like moths and everything, just crawling all throughout their fur. And I was thinking, that thing is sick. It has got to have something wrong with it for all of that to be growing on it, and bugs to be living in it, like maybe it has an infection somewhere, I don't know. But with my own little naive mind, I would have thought it needs to be taken to a rehab facility. Like somebody needs to clean it off, give it a bath, give it some medicine, and take care of it.
She's got a
When in
bad
reality,
part in her
yeah. When in reality, that's natural for sloths, and they need that to be able to survive. So yeah, the biggest thing is just the sloth encounters where people will go, even if they're not even initially going to see a sloth, but they book a cruise. And then when they're looking through the excursions, they're like, oh my gosh, a sloth encounter. Hopefully they would have seen a little bit of our life to be able to understand and make a more educated decision about it. Because there's other sloth encounters where you can go and actually just have a tour, where it's a guided tour where you go through and the natives kind of know like popular hangout spots for where they're at, but it's never 100% guaranteed that you're going to see a sloth. Because those encounters there's been sloths put specifically somewhere that you're going to be able to see them. But the ones where you can just be guided through and the natives are like, sometimes they hang out here, sometimes they hang out there, maybe you're going to see one. Those are completely fine. I support those. I want to do one of those as well, just to see a sloth in its natural habitat without being, messed with whatsoever. Sloth that has never seen anybody like that before, I think it would be pretty cool. But where you start running into gray areas is, guaranteed to see a sloth.
You just
or things
knew.
like
Well, my
that.
friend, a teacher friend of mine, that's when I first saw it. She was holding one. I was like, oh, where did you get to do that? And she was
Yeah.
on a cruise. And she
Yeah.
probably died. She knew.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Oh, how you been, buddy? And so I mentioned how they had that really poor eyesight. They have a condition that's called rod monochromacy, and that means they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. We have both, and the cone cells allow us to see color, where the rod cells pick up motion. But since they don't have the cone cells, they are completely colorblind, and what they really see, it's not just in black and white, it's basically just blobs and shapes that they see. So if I were to stand up, or when he looks back at me, and he looks at my figure, he can't tell who I am whatsoever. But he hears me talking, and so that's how he associates with me, that's how he understands who I am. But if you were holding him and I just walked into the room and he looked back at me, he'd have no idea who I am. He has to have that, verbal, somebody talking, or be able to smell who I am. So they pick up highly on things like that, more so than a dog does.
I'm
And so
sure
that's
that
really
keeps him
sensitive for
calmer
them.
than
Yeah.
just somebody.
But since their eyesight is so poor, it kind of works like night goggle vision. Looking through night goggles in the middle of the day, you're really not going to be able to make much out at all. And so they are nocturnal animals. In the daytime, even if they're awake, they're in one spot. They stay in the same spot pretty much all day long until it starts to get dark. And then they'll start to move around and go find, the leaves that they want to eat and start to climb around a lot more. That's usually when they go to the bathroom, is at night, and things like that. But if they were to be startled by something in the daytime, and they're just, minding their own business out in the middle of the branch, and they see a little bit of movement over in the corner of their eye, even if they can't distinguish what that movement is, if it looks like it's coming towards them, it's probably bad news, and they want to get away from it. It could be a jaguar, it could be an ocelot, it could be a person, anything that's coming towards this sloth to investigate it, they don't want anything to do with it. So their first line of defense is to just evade that threat. And so if they get out to the very end of the branch, where it gets a lot thinner and probably going to start to weigh down under their weight, if it is a jaguar or some kind of an animal like that that's trying to eat them, if that animal goes out on top of the branch, that branch is probably going to eventually break. But that's best case scenario for the sloth, because sloths are built to be able to withstand a fall from 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed. So he looks pretty spindly and pretty fragile, but on the inside, his abdominal cavity is kind of built like a truck. So he's got a total of 46 ribs. That's double what we have. It's 2 sets of 23, and all those ribs protect all of their internal organs. And their ribs, their bones are extremely flexible as well. So when they hit the ground, they kind of just like a sponge. They just kind of flex. Their rib cage will flex and then go back to normal. And in the middle of their body cavity, they've got a lot of connective tissue that's holding all of their internal organs really tightly in the middle of their body cavity, so that they don't really experience internal damage when they hit the ground. Nothing really and shakes around.
You hear her?
It's like a truck.
You are so awesome. Oh my goodness.
And so they do actually fall out of the trees that they're staying in the wild about once a week on average. It does happen quite a bit, whether it's due to something like that where they've gone out to the end of the branch and it's broken, or if they're in a scurry to get away from something and they grab a hold of what they think is the next branch and then they let go of the back leg. It could be their front leg that they grabbed onto, and if they're scurrying and they don't realize that they've done that, then they can fall. But it's not too big of a deal. Oh, did your hair tickle his nose?
Sorry. Thanks, everybody.
Give me
What are you looking at, buddy? So he's got tiny little pinpoint pupils right now in the daytime when it's light, but at nighttime they actually dilate quite a bit and they'll get pretty big. You can see more black than you can, color in their eye. Little bird screaming out there.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
And then we get here and they took the monkey inside and kept thinking it was a squeaky wheel. I was like,
Oh.
what is that
Yeah.
sound?
Take a picture of his little toes.
Yeah. You have to hit that.
Little toes. Just hit the side button twice.
One of
Yeah,
those.
that one. There we go. Little toes.
Someone was like,
So those claws will actually continuously grow throughout their lives too. When they're little and they're babies, they're really short, but they can get to be, about the size of my hand. They get to be pretty long. Yeah.
yeah.
And they'll dull down over time too as they grow and they climb a lot more. And that paw pad there is actually really sensitive for them. They've got a lot of nerve endings in that paw pad, and that's what allows them to know what they're grabbing onto. If they take time to think about what they're grabbing onto, if they grab onto their leg, they're like, oh, that's not what I'm supposed to do, then they'll grab onto something else. But if they're scurrying, trying to get away, and they don't give themselves enough time to react to that, that's when they'll fall. Do you guys have
Well, we didn't really know any.
Yeah.
Do you pay for them here?
Yeah, sometimes now that we have the farm shop, that's been a new addition. It's just been here about a month now. Yeah, and so beforehand, nobody could book same day booking really unless you specifically called Donna and was like, I'm here, I live 2 hours away, I didn't know if there was other things you could do, can I do something same day? Wasn't really a whole lot like that went on. But now that we have the farm shop, if you're already here for an encounter, it's not guaranteed that there's going to be something else, but you can always go up there and just say, I didn't realize there was other stuff. Do you have any availability for something else? Because we've got a lot of different encounters, like one-on-one encounters like this with the fennec foxes or the spider monkey, the kangaroos, but there's also the farm tour, and I think that, it's just almost 3 o'clock. I think there should be still the afternoon farm tour. Sometimes there's availability on that, and it's like an hour and a half tour, and you get to see all of the animals on the farm, at least one type of all of them. And it's not so much one-on-one, like it'll be a group of people, but you get to, go through and learn about all the different animals and have, encounter time where you can hold them and take pictures of things. It's really cool.
I haven't had a zebra escape, have you?
No, we have not. No, we've got two of them right now. Well, I'll say 2.5. Our female is supposed to be giving birth here soon. We thought she was going to give birth like a month ago, so we're closer today than we were yesterday.
That's what's hard. Like
Yeah.
donkeys, it's a year, which I get, same thing with probably zebras. And I keep looking, and you don't know when she's...
And what was so weird is they say that with zebras, they don't really bag up until after they've given birth or while they're giving birth. And so they say that if they bag up, it's like baby watch. You're supposed to see a baby within 24 hours. Well, she bagged up like a week and a half ago.
See, I watched my
so-
donkey forever, and I'm like,
Yeah.
she's going to have that, and I'll keep watching, but now I'm like, okay, maybe she's just...
Yeah.
Because I can't really see if the
Yeah.
milk's come in.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
And I'm going to have another one.
Oh, goodness.
She had a baby, they come in heat like 11
Uh-huh.
days
Yeah.
after, and I try to keep them separate because you don't know where she's going to have it. So I was taking it down to the crowd where they get the baby, the mom can be by themselves. get all the jacks, well, I had one gelded up away from her, and I thought, well, she'll follow me with the baby. Oh no, she went straight for the jacks. I was like, so we're gonna have, they're precious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the same thing with the zebras too, is that the daddy zebra is not the other zebra that we have here. She was already bred when we bought her. And so if we kept her out there with our male zebra, he would not have anything to do with that baby, and it would not work out very well for them at all. So that's why we separated her. It's been a month and a half that she's been over here by herself, because we thought she was going to give birth anytime, but we're just not going to risk it not to put her back out there, you know, because,
And the baby,
Yeah.
I mean, you just never know what they'll do.
yeah.
I keep mine separate for at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want her name is Lottie Dog.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That's the way her personality is.
Yeah.
But, I hate to have my donkeys gelded. The last one I had, my vet came out and they tied their back leg to their front leg and just, and I looked down and like he had a tear that just, I said, Wes, and he's like, Gail, I promise, I gave him more than what, you know, he's not feeling it, but it broke me. I was like, and he didn't have anything to do with me for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just, so I'm like, I'm gonna sell kicks to, I've got several people wanting them, because I just can't.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, for sure.
We have a farm, but we're not farmers.
Yeah.
We're paisy.
Mm.
I love the Highland cows too, but they're pretty pricey.
Yeah, and the two that we have up there, Annie and Dolly, they're micro mini Scottish Highlands.
Okay.
So that,
So
genetically,
they're very pricey.
and I don't know how the genetics work and everything, but it's like you breed the smallest with the smallest with the smallest with the smallest, generations after generations to be able to get a micro mini. And they won't grow any more than what they are right now, the two lighter ones up there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have, faming goats. We're just down to two, because there's a worm, the wormer it wouldn't kill this one wormer. It's a pole worm is what they call it. And I even bought this stuff from Australia. It's like $300 a thing. And I tried to get UT. I was like, y'all have got it, because we've got goats dying everywhere, because, you know, the wormer's not getting them. But
What were you using?
I forget what it's called. It's a fungus that strangles the worms. And like you feed it to the goats or whatever animal, and it poops it out, and it gets the
It's not bioworma, is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it actually? So you didn't work?
It is.
It didn't work?
No, it did.
It did. Okay.
I had to get it from Australia.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because that's what the large animal vet that I've been riding with, and that introduced me to this place too, has been telling people about that, and has been saying, several people have said that this has worked really well, and if you're having issues with the worm or not, but it's extremely expensive, isn't it?
It's like $300
Yeah.
for it. But you just,
Yeah.
I finally got, because and it kills the babies just in no time.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue that I struggle with small ruminants like that, because they just, the wormers, they can't make any more wormers. There's no way to be able to, so the wormers that we've got is the wormers that we've got to work with, and a lot of people abuse the wormers where they'll deworm religiously,
Well, that's what you think that you're supposed to do.
And that's what you think, but then they build up. If they're not wormy and you deworm a goat or a sheep, then that just builds up the little bit of parasites that they have in there. They get to see a little bit of it, and they'll build up resistance to it over time. And so then you have babies that are being born that are already resistant to these parasites, or resistant to the dewormers.
It's awful. Like, when it just sucks the blood out of them. And you're just, it kills them so fast. But did they need to, like, I really tried to talk to UT. I said, this isn't, they should be able to create the same stuff and sell it to save our livestock. But
what did they say about it?
They just blew me off, I guess, because I'm just
it would be smart though. They'd probably make a lot of money off that too. So
I told them, I said, there's so many people that need it, and you didn't know, a lot of people don't know and you can't save them. Like they would give them. I had the vet come out I don't know how many times, because they would give them at the same time different wormers. But I saved two of them. I lost all my babies.
It's rough on them.
Oh, sweet baby.
He's like, why are you not talking about me?
I'm so sorry. We can say you small. Oh, Daddy.
Are she mad? We'll give her staggles.
I have to hold it down. That's right.
He's like, where are you? Where are you, Mama?
I'm half finished up with our time too. I know it goes by so quickly, but we'll get it from you.
Such a day. Oh my
Excuse me.
Mama, I'm ready.
Yeah, my bud. And see, this works when he's just like 8.5 pounds, but when he gets to be like 15, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to pick him up like that.
Just like.
You have to get some kind of a sleeve to put him on. Alright. You gonna let go? It's like, oh, it's comfy.
No.
Well, I'm glad you guys got to come and interact with him. Spend a little bit of time
You'll
with
make a
him.
fantastic
Yeah.
vet.
Oh, thank you. I should hear, I just submitted my second application, so I should hear within like, it should be the next week that I should hear from UT.
So does that mean
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
So then your job will be
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna do, but I am engaged to the other son, so I'm definitely gonna be sticking around. Congratulations. You don't care to sanitize your hands for me yet? Oh, congratulations. That's what I already said.
Hey guys, I'm trying to see if we're doing another encounter or not. If we are, I'm gonna take us right back in there. So we'll be back live in just a moment.